So for everyone who is watching, this is a host interviews episode, which means that a guest or someone who I know very well will be interviewing me just so that the viewer will get to know me more. We did something similar to this on a regular Daybreak when we did a flipped interview. There'll be a Daybreak Stories about that very soon, actually, where Riley interviewed me and we went over a number of topics, but this will be purely about me as a person, Daybreak, and how it functions and all that, so that the viewer will get to know the host more. So Riley has a number of questions and I will be here to answer them.
Okay, so starting off, I was just wondering how much time it takes you to prepare for every episode of Daybreak and like making Daybreak stories and everything like that.
Well, that's interesting because it changed throughout the course of Daybreak. At the beginning and probably through season 2, it took me a couple hours to make the cards and do all the guests and form the questions. Season 3 through season 4, where I actually had like 15 questions prepared, probably took about half an hour. But then I started to transition away from making planned questions so that it was less robotic and more authentic. And so probably to just prepare the average episode, probably about 10 minutes. Of course, setting up the studio took me a month, but actually preparing for every episode is probably about 10 minutes, just like forming like one or two questions, writing the monologue, researching like current events or whatever. And that's just per episode. But when we go into this new season of Daybreak in 2021, as I had a call with Riley before this to discuss changes to Daybreak, that will probably be combined, like probably combined total time will probably be probably 2 days worth of communication with everyone just so that we can fully understand what's going to happen. We're prepared for everything that's going to happen this year with all this crazy stuff. And I would say trying to control everything with COVID with Daybreak will definitely take longer. And when we go into the studio, getting the mic set up, getting the whole camera situation sorted out and everything will definitely also take more time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And kind of like coming off of that, why are you so invested and interested in talk shows? Like, what makes you want to put so much time and effort into making Daybreak come to life?
Well, I don't know if I'm invested in talk shows in general. I started Daybreak just to communicate with people, and I have always liked Conan. I've liked Jimmy Fallon and James Corden, just because. I mean, I find it helpful to people to just watch someone interview someone else in just a friendly way and get to know them better. And so I thought that, well, even if you were to interview, like I think I make this analogy a lot, or whatever metaphor. If you were to interview Harrison Ford, you don't really know Harrison Ford. But if I were to interview you, people at DS know who you are. And so when I interview you, they'll get to know more about you, and they'll get to relate to you. And so that I was invested in talk shows because of that reason. And people actually try and make up their own definition, or their own reasoning for why I started it, like to give kids voices in current events, which is true. But the main reason was just to have something that people can relate to when they see this.
Yeah, that's awesome. And out of all of this, everything that Daybreak has turned into and come from Daybreak, what has been your favorite part about hosting or just Daybreak in general?
Hmm. Probably when I get good guests. It There's not really like a specific moment when it's the best. Maybe when everything comes to, like when I came back after that month-long break in August, and I came back in September, and everything went like flawlessly on the first episode. Like that was nice to have the new theme song work, to have the set work and look nice, and the sound to work. Like that was an amazing moment. But when I get a good guest, such as yourself, or I have Grace or TJ or Alex Versa, like those are my I'm have so much fun in those interviews, and they're so amazing. When I get a bad guest, yes, I enjoy it, but it's not like, oh, okay, well, wasn't the best. When I get a good guest, I am always smiling afterwards. I'm smiling during the show. I'm happy, and I can't wait for the next week. And so those are probably the best moments when I have really good guests, and when I have guests like you who care so much about the show that they're willing to spend hours with me to discuss things.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I think that is definitely something really special about Daybreak. But it's like even though we don't even live in the same town anymore or go to the same school, it's cool how we're able to get to know each other and kind of talk and like spend time working on this, which is really fun. And
Yeah,
so, yeah.
my best friend actually at school doesn't even live in this town. She lives, and we're not a regional school district. We're in Norwell High School, but her mom works in Norwell, so she's able to go to Norwell. She lives in Weymouth. It's about a half an hour to get to her house. And so, and we're miles and miles and miles away, even from Dover Sherborne. It takes me about an hour, maybe in like an hour, hour and a half to get to Dover Sherborne. And I had to call my friend TJ, who's on the complete opposite side of the state, is way up north by Lowell. It's like with COVID, like I think I saw this on maybe Instagram or someone else or somewhere else. Where like before COVID, we didn't think that remote was possible with all of everything. I think it would fail like miserably, and it would be just the world would collapse. But with COVID, we found that we can have these calls even on remote, and like the talk show works better that way for me personally because now I can actually talk with people who don't live near me.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to have you or Grace travel an hour and a half down here to have me interview then for 45 minutes and you drive all the way back. So it's a lot better this way, and I think it's worked out really well.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And so, with all of that said, with all of the positives of Daybreak, what has been the most challenging part for you, or like the biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome?
Ugh. There hasn't been like something I've had to overcome. Maybe like the process of like maybe the learning curve of editing was a difficulty, or the learning curve of if you overplan, it's not going to turn out as good as if you actually listen and base questions off the answers. But I'd say the biggest struggles with Daybreak has just been trying to organize everything, because I think I got rid of an episode for Daybreak Stories because I was going to be too short. But like I was going to explain all the guest troubles we've had. We've had guests oversleep. We've had guests just forget to come on. We've had guests be occupied with two different things at once and then not be able to do this thing. I think that happened. Someone had to take care of something, and so they couldn't come on the show. They came on afterwards, but or the iPad died in the middle of an episode, and when no guests showed up at all. So it's just organizing everything to make sure it works out as planned. But when you have these issues, the overcoming those issues are the most memorable moments.
Yeah,
Because if everything goes to plan, it's also like, okay, it went to plan, but there's nothing special about that. What is special is when you have an issue, but then you solve that issue and you make that issue work and you incorporate that into the show. When TJ came on in season two, I think it was two. He was talking, yeah, I think it was season two finale. He was talking about theater, and my questions were planned that he was actually acting, and so I was going to ask him about his acting career and everything. He wasn't acting; he was the sound engineer. He watched everything, so all of my questions were completely useless. So I had to invent questions on the spot and have a conversation. And that problem turned into the biggest solution to the biggest problem with Daybreak, which was the robotic questions. And so when you have problems and you turn them into a solution to other problems, those are the best. I guess to answer your previous question, those are the best moments. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so, with all of this said, like with all the positives and the hard parts of Daybreak, what made you want to start Daybreak in the first place, and what has made you want to keep Daybreak going even though you're in school and like schedules are busy? So how have you kind of decided to do that?
Well, I guess I'm a very social person. I don't like. I don't. Okay. I like being around people. It's not like a need for attention. I just like being around people. I made a joke about it during I think it was like a season commercial or whatever. I said I was like, it was one of those texts like furthering my need for attention, Daybreak. Like it was a joke, but like I like being around people, I like having conversations and interacting with people. I'm very much an extrovert, and so when COVID happened and I was shut off, it was and I'm shut off now. It's not. You know, I was struggling because I'm like, I'm like, well, let's just start a talk show. And it's a random thought, like, I don't talk shows, solutions on my problems, but it turned into a big thing I wasn't expecting. So that was the start, but it's such a I was talking recreate memories and have them be the same thing. But this you can. Like this, you can just keep extending it and you can make more memories off of it. And I love doing this so much. I like having conversations with you about it, and doing all of this. And so that's why I'm keeping with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, that's just amazing. And I think that Daybreak has, especially with COVID and how like in-person contact, and I feel like a lot of like social situations have been reduced. Daybreak does a really good job of kind of being able to go and talk to people and kind of make connections even in like this time when like making connections is really hard to do.
Right.
So yeah. And so with all the positives on Daybreak, what has been the biggest disaster? The worst thing to happen on Daybreak?
Probably the reason why we went on a break for a month. There is a public reason and then there's a real reason why. Like I try and shine like happiness onto why we do the things we do, but sometimes it's a bad reason or it's a sad reason. The way I talked about the break was that it was to reinvent Daybreak and to redo it, but that wasn't really the reason why. The reason why was because I was running out of guests and I couldn't find people in time, and I needed a break to organize Daybreak. It's sort of like when a company declares bankruptcy so they can reorganize the company and restructure the company. That's basically what happened. I ran out of people. I didn't have enough time to find them. So I basically canceled the show for a month and tried to find new guests within that time. And by doing that, I redid Daybreak in the process. But the main reason was to find guests. And so that was the biggest struggle with Daybreak that we did overcome. And with this new season of Daybreak, I'm sure I'll run into that problem again, but I'm trying to get ahead of that by planning everything now and then improving it and then getting it all ready. But this world is very unpredictable right now, so we'll see how this goes. But hopefully that turns out fine.
Yeah. And so kind of a question to wrap it all up. It's kind of very broad, but what are you most proud of about Daybreak and all the amazing things that you've done with it?
Huh. I mean, I want to say everything, but that's not a good answer. Probably the programs and the ideas that have come from Daybreak and the other people taking the idea of Daybreak and making it their own. So this relates to what you're doing. You wanted to do an episode, and so we're planning to do an episode where you're the host, like this is, but with 2 guests and everything. But my friend TJ, who watched every episode of Daybreak, created his own talk show, a political talk show, but still a talk show, because he was inspired by what Daybreak did. And that is like, that made me very happy to see. Like, someone taking what I've done and making it their own thing because they enjoyed it so much. And when I say the programs, I mean like the sparking off of getting a studio deal, which is like amazing. Doing Daybreak stories, the host interviews, all of these sub-series of Daybreak. It's really the fact that it's lasted this long with the amount of support it has garnered and the continued support it has is mind-blowing to me. Like, I didn't expect anyone to really care about this. I just thought it was like my passion project. But like, I have a staff. I have you and Grace on my board. I'm trying to expand. We have a constant viewer base. We have like a YouTube channel, a website, Facebook account. Like we've expanded so much, and I'm only 15, and this may end by the time I'm in senior year. But the amount of work that's been done to make this show succeed is just, that's what makes me so proud of Daybreak. It's not the actual show, but it's the idea of it and the work that has gone into it to make it work and the byproducts of the show. So that's what I'm most proud of with the show.
Yeah, I love that. And it is kind of crazy just when it started and I like reached out and I asked if I could be a guest. It kind of is, it's so amazing how it went from that with just, you know, like the live episodes once a week, and then it's kind of blossomed into you having your own website and a YouTube channel and a bunch of guests and guests from out of the country, which I just learned about. So it's absolutely crazy and it's so awesome.
Yeah, little did you know when you said I wanted to be a guest, you'd be roped into all of this.
But yeah, it's been so much fun kind of watching it, for me at least, just to watch it grow from being something kind of small and like, and with like, you know, with a few people watching it and then like grow into something so big like this, which has been really fun.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing with Daybreak is that when I first started it, I didn't know how Instagram worked, and so the first episode is completely unwatchable. It's literally gone to history, which is unfortunate. But I mean, this is practically a time capsule. Like, you can go back to when we start this, April, May of last year, and you can watch it grow over time. Like, that's, at our house, we have family videos that we keep, so we can watch ourselves at like 6 or 5 or 4. When I was like 1, I can see myself like being pushed in the stroller around. Like, and I mean, it's weird to think about as I'm walking around now. Like, couldn't walk back then. Like, it's like you have a time capsule of your life, and this is practically a time capsule of my life every week of my life throughout multiple months. And then you get to see the growth of Daybreak. We just started out on this desk facing the other way, with just my iPad being held up by this little rinky-dink stand and little cards and me trying to beat Jimmy Fallon. Then that blossomed into having 4-episode seasons with 8 guests per season. We invented new games. We got a staff. We got a Facebook account. We did a website, a YouTube account. We got viewership. And like, the amount of stuff that's been done over the course of, compared to my entire life, a fairly short time. Like, that's cool to watch that happen every week. And you can watch it all now for free and just one after another. And I actually watched our episode that we did over just to relive the fun memories. And I'm like, I can't believe that we were here. And then once, like a couple weeks later, we got a website and a new studio. Like, I don't know. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And it's definitely, I think I've never met someone who started a talk show. So it's definitely a very unique idea, and it's so incredible how it went from like kind of just like a passion project of yours into something like so that everyone is kind of involved, and there's a lot of people involved in watching and that care about the show. So yeah, it's like it's grown from just something like you were kind of thinking about to something that like a ton of people are involved with, which is awesome.
Yeah, when I was closing out season 4 and we went on that break, I read off all of the guests that we've had on the show. I read off every name, and even the guests that weren't on the show who wanted to be. And writing all of the names down, there was like 50 names. I don't know how I got that many people to do this. Like, I don't understand how that happened. But it's been the best period in my life to get to be able to do all this. And for people who I didn't know very well, like you, to be so interested in how it functions and everything, willing to come to like 2 hour long meetings to discuss how it'll function. That was a notification. Um, to be able to discuss all this stuff, it's really surprising, but also amazing.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't have any more questions, but thank you so much for meeting with me and talking about Daybreak. And this has been like an incredible conversation and so interesting to hear more about what goes on behind the scenes at Daybreak and your thoughts and feelings on it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, you have been with this the entire way, and so be able to do all this stuff with you has been amazing. And thank you so much for the amazing interview. You have great questions. I can't wait for your actual interview on the Daybreak show. And yeah, but to the viewers, we're recording 2 things today. We're recording this host interviews, and we're also going to be recording a Daybreak Stories with Riley. So when this comes out, that'll also be out. So go take a look at that on the YouTube channel. But everyone, just thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for the support. It really means the world to me, and the support really helps Daybreak grow. So thank you so much for watching, and everyone have an amazing day.